Well, hello and welcome to another edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. I am your host, Chris Green, the Director of Network Growth for Avoya Travel. We certainly appreciate your time and joining us for our weekly discussion about the travel industry, the latest and greatest in Avoya travel resources, promotions, and of course, our chance to shine the spotlight on another member of the Avoya team. This week, we'll introduce you to Vicki Dyer, the Director of Avoya University and a longtime member of the Avoya travel family. She has a wealth of knowledge and experience, and she's excited to share that with us here in just a few minutes. But before we jump into our Meet the Team feature, we're going to do like we do every week and start our On Deck with Avoya with some travel industry news and industry insights and our eye on the industry. And as you might imagine, COVID-19 continues to lead the way this week with a big push, though, for more substantial relief for the travel industry and more specifically, the small business owners that make up such a large percentage of the leisure-based travel sales channel. Travel agents are the heartbeat of our industry. I think we'd all agree on that. And they're suffering like at no other time in their recent history. That's why it's so vital to understand who's fighting for you and how you can help them to win that fight. And one of those organizations certainly has to be ASTA, the American Society of Travel Agents, certainly fighting hard for our industry. And we're a proud supporter here at Avoya Travel of ASTA's efforts. And we encourage all travel professionals to reach out and see what they can do to help them be successful as well. They're making great headway too. Just this week, a bipartisan bill. Imagine that, bipartisan. They're working together across party lines. And this is a bill that is fully supported by ASTA. It was introduced by several members of Congress in both the House and the Senate. It's called the Hospitality and Commerce Job Recovery Act of 2021. It's proposed legislation that, according to the press release, would provide comprehensive relief and recovery measures for the convention, trade show, entertainment, travel, and hospitality industries and their workers. It would stimulate the economy by creating new recovery incentives for hospitality and trade shows, extend the employee retention tax credit to reduce layoffs, and keep Americans employed. ASTA has been in touch with all of the bill sponsors. They're working very closely with them, and they want to make sure this is included in COVID relief legislation that's being debated about right now. Another great organization that continues to fight for the travel industry is CLIA, the Cruise Line International Association. They released a one-year message, and it's hard to believe that we're coming up on a year since all the cruise ships had to be off the waters. But we're at that point, and they released this one-year message via their travel agent e-newsletter, and it includes the following highlights. The cruise industry supports the worldwide efforts to curtail the spread of COVID-19. Overcoming the pandemic is critical to the long-term recovery of the industry and those that rely on it. They went on to say that since last July, nearly 350,000 people, that's an amazing number, have sailed on a variety of modified itineraries out of Germany, Italy, and Greece, and under strict protocols that worked. Yeah, they worked as intended. And the success of those initial sailings instills confidence that the industry's multi-layered approach works well, and it can be a model for the resumption in other parts of the world. And here closer to home in North America, CLIA continues to work with the US and Canadian officials to chart the path ahead, what that's going to look like, including receiving technical instructions and guidance necessary to implement the requirements of the CDC's framework for conditional sailing. Avoya Travel is a proud member of CLIA, an elite member of CLIA. We're a member of CLIA with special benefits and special price points. So please reach out. We'd just be more than happy to have that conversation with you. Big news this week from the Royal Caribbean International team as they announced they'll be debuting the newest member of their fleet, the Odyssey of the Seas. But this is going to be the first fully vaccinated sailing of both crew and passengers. It's going to happen out of Israel. The sailings begin in May. They're going to go on sale here starting, I think, on the 9th of March. It's only going to be available to residents of Israel, and anybody that sails, both crew and passenger, over the age of 16 has to be fully immunized prior to the sailings. They're 4 to 7 day sailings. They're going to be visiting Cyprus and Greece, and they're going to be using Haifa, Israel as the home port. The Odyssey of the Seas will be delivered to Royal Caribbean next month in April. It was originally scheduled to debut out of Rome, but of course that was pre-COVID. So Now it's going to debut in May, coming out of Haifa, Israel, and we certainly wish the Royal Caribbean gang the best with that. And finally, we wrap up our Eye on the Industry feature with some great news right here from Avoya Travel, a press release that was dated this week. Avoya Travel, one of travel industry's most innovative brands, has announced it will be paying additional commission overrides to qualifying independent agencies in the Avoya Travel network based on 2020 earned commission levels. Now, Avoya launched this independent agency commission growth incentive back in the first quarter of 2020 to extremely positive feedback from the Avoya network. The incentive program is designed to reward independent agencies' commission override payments for their commission growth. While several independent agencies were able to reach those sales goals for 2020, Avoya Travel, because of everything happening with COVID, actually lowered for the whole network some of those. And so they were actually able to pay out substantial bonus commissions to many, many members of the Avoya Travel agency. So fantastic news there. And again, if you're considering Avoya Travel, considering making a change, reach out. My team would be more than happy to have that conversation. So as we transition into our weekly Meet the Team feature here On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update, I want to remind you that Avoya Travel offers a best-in-class suite of elite resources for the true travel professional, from marketing, technology, support, and an area that this week's guest, Vicki Dyer, director of Avoya University, knows all too well, because we're talking about professional development. Avoya's resources are geared towards helping agents reach their maximum potential for success. So if you'd like to schedule a one-on-one with a network expansion specialist, please reach out today, and we'd be more than happy to have that conversation. And please join me in welcoming my special guest this week for our Meet the Team feature, Vicki Dyer. Vicki, thanks so much for being here, and we really appreciate your time. Welcome to On Deck with Avoya.
Thank you, Chris. It's really nice to be here.
Fantastic to have you. Vicki, before we talk a little bit about your current role at Avoya Travel, let's start at the beginning of your travel career, if you don't mind. Tell me about how you ended up as a travel professional and being part of the Avoya Travel family.
Well, honestly, it was not by design. But I have been so thankful that I stumbled into this wonderful company. We talk a lot about family when we talk about Avoya, and it really is true. Obviously, it's a family-owned business. The Avoya employee teams feel like a family, and we work together with each other as a family. The close-knit community of independent agencies support each other and encourage each other the way a family would. And of course, as you know, Chris, there is no shortage of husband and wife teams, mother-daughter teams, et cetera, on both sides of the network.
Absolutely, and proud to be part of one of those husband and wife teams here at Avoya Travel. Vicki, what was it about the travel industry that just intrigued you, though, and has kept your interest for these years?
Well, I think we all agree that travel is fun and it's exciting, but really what has kept me the most engaged for my 13 plus years has been the people I get to work with, and also that there's always an opportunity to grow and learn and meet new challenges. Certainly never a dull moment. And I learned early on not to get too comfy wherever you were, because change is right around the corner.
Yeah, that kind of leads me right into my next question. I mean, I guess it's safe to say that, considering that you've been with Avoya Travel, or the precursor to Avoya Travel, America's Vacation Center, going back to 2007, that you've seen some amazing changes, not only within our company, but within the industry as a whole. What's the biggest change that you think you've seen in your tenure?
Well, I came aboard when we were going through an economic crisis that definitely affected our entire industry. Brick and mortar agencies were closing their doors, and it almost looked like a travel agent was going to become obsolete. And as it turned out, Avoya's uh, foresight and planning had us aligned perfectly for that time to have a shared success platform for travel professionals. So that just continues to change and grow over all the years. But it it really, the first year or two, there were so many changes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing about travel, right? It's kind of like most of us say about our home state. It's like the weather. Travel's like the weather. If you don't like it, stick around 10 minutes because it's liable
Yep.
to change.
This is true.
Vicki, Vicki, tell me a little bit about the role that Avoya University, your department, plays within our network, and a little bit like what your day-to-day function would look like and some of the projects that you and your team are involved in.
Okay. Well, Avoya University, first of all, is primarily focused on providing assistance to the newest independent agencies in our network. We help with online resources, personal contacts, webinars, all kinds of things to get them acclimated and to a point where they can accurately and effectively operate within agent power for their business. As far as projects for the team, well, the AU team really is amazing. They're talented. I know we all feel that way about each of our teams, and they are constantly finding ways to improve and enhance the experience and the curriculum. And of course, with agent power always changing, we get to change too and show you what's new.
Absolutely. And you heard Vicki mention Agent Power, which is our technology exclusive for the members in the Avoya Travel Network. And if you reach out to one of the members of my team, we can probably get you scheduled for a one-on-one demonstration of that Agent Power technology and give you a little walkthrough. Vicki, I think all of us, when you look back at the last year, and it's hard to imagine that we're kind of entering year two of this whole COVID-19 crisis, but here we go, whether we like it or not. And I think every single one of our roles within Avoya Travel has had to morph and change slightly because of the COVID-19 situation. What is the biggest change to your role that you've noticed and how you had to adapt and, kind of pivot to meet the new demands?
Honestly, it's hard to think of anything that hasn't changed. It just has been one thing after another, and it continues to change. And we just meet it head on and make the adjustments and problem solve and find a way to better support the network.
Yeah, it really goes to the heart of the shared success business model that Avoya Travel really, prides itself on. Vicki, let me ask you the question in the most basic of terms. Why does professional development matter for a travel professional?
That's really a great question, Chris. So if you think about it, if you have access to industry leading technology, wouldn't you want to learn how to use it?
Yes.
And once you have the basics down, don't you want to learn shortcuts and all the new enhancements and something that can save you time and that sort of thing? So, in my opinion, the professional development is an invaluable investment in the IA's business.
Yeah, I mean, time is money. And if you can create ways through your own knowledge of how things work, I think in order to save a little bit of time, you stack all of that time up at the end of the year. And what that time is going to translate to for a great professional is money in the bank. So, time well spent, I would say, right?
Yes.
So we're chatting with our Meet the Team feature special guest this week, Vicki Dyer, the director of Avoya University. And Vicki, let's chat for a second about you personally, the person outside of Avoya Travel. And I saw on your one sheet that you had a really amazing chance to, because of your parents' missionary work, to lock in some exciting travel adventures at a really early age. Tell me a little bit about just how special and cool it must have been to spend part of your youth, living in South America.
Yes, it really was. As educators, my parents provided lots of travel experiences, but this one in particular was definitely the longest and the most vivid. It was, 10 months in the jungle on a primitive missionary base. It was 2 months of traveling and visiting other countries in Central and South America and all the different experiences that were offered. It really was a once in a lifetime.
I mean, just the plane ride in, right, was pretty like spectacular.
Yes. We flew from Lima to Pucallpa over the Andes in an unpressurized DC-3. So we had the little air tubes under our noses and everything. And we landed on a dirt airstrip that there were chickens and goats and everything in the way. From there, we got on a small seaplane and flew and landed on the water in the lake right there by the missionary base. And that was my favorite flight ever. It was so cool. You landed and the water splashed up and over, and it was just completely different. So it was fun,
Yeah,
but
cool.
a little weird.
No, I'm sure. Absolutely. I love those seaplanes. You think the fact that you got to lock in that experience at such a young age really gave you as you grew as a person, just a different perspective on the world?
I really do. There, it was eye opening how, at when you're 10, 11, your world is as big as your experience. And there I saw things that I never would have seen at home. There were places we visited that had these luxury resorts and pristine beaches. And right behind them were the poverty stricken slums where most of the people, that was their reality, not that gorgeous other side. And then things like just being surrounded, the lush rainforest, and how beautiful it was, and um, meeting so many different cultures, and the primitiveness of the Indian tribes when we were in the jungle, and how they managed their day-to-day lives without any of the modern conveniences we take for granted. Um, Even like in our house, our running water was from rain barrels on top because it rained every day. It was
Sure.
never cold, but it rained every day. And you turn on the kitchen sink and it's not working. Well, you have to climb up on the roof and dig out the frog that is stuck at the bottom where it won't let the water go through. And there was like 30 minutes late afternoon where you could actually take a warm shower. Just the way the sun would be on the rain barrels and stuff. Things like that were so outside of normal experiences, and it really left a big impression. Machu Picchu, I know that everyone's seen the pictures, and some, I'm sure, listening today have been there. I remember the 2-hour train ride, this rickety old train that just sounded like it was going to shake apart at any moment or fall off the cliff. Taking us up there was terrifying, but well worth the trip with everything we got to see. It was fantastic.
Sounds like really just an amazing experience. I'm so excited for you that you were able to have that.
Yeah.
Jumping forward a little bit with a current hobby, I have to say I'm a little bit jealous because while I have the green in my last name, I do not have a green thumb, and I understand you're quite the master gardener with a real love for the outdoors. Tell me a little bit about, your favorite things to kind of help nurture and watch grow.
Well, I don't know if I'm a master gardener. I'm definitely an avid gardener. There's nothing better to me than being outside, the sunshine, blue skies, fresh air, and then you get to dig in the dirt and that sort of thing, and then planting your seeds or the little starter plants and watching them grow. To me, it's a miracle, and it's rewarding to see your efforts, bear fruit, whether that is vegetables or flowers. I love them both. The must-haves for me for vegetables are tomatoes, Anaheim chili peppers, and asparagus. You can't beat homegrown on any of those, although you name it, I've grown it: eggplant, melons, squash, all kinds of things. But I always have to have those three. And then flowers are just a passion. They make me happy, they make me smile. And every year I tell myself I don't need any new varieties, but I don't listen.
As you shouldn't. You
Always
should
had it.
ignore that. You should ignore that internal part of you that says enough, because if it
Oh,
makes you happy,
yeah.
if that's the one thing we've learned in COVID, right? If it makes you happy, then it can't be, so bad as the song says.
Yes.
And I find it interesting that you nurture in the garden, and then it ties in directly with what you do with the Avoya Travel Network, because you're a nurturer there for people in Avoya University. So it kind of ties together very nicely. Vicki, before we let you go, if you had one piece of advice that you were going to offer a travel professional that is trying to make some decisions and try to figure out their path forward as we emerge from this COVID-19 crisis, what would that be?
Well, actually, I'm going to share advice from Ralph Waldo Emerson, and it is to hit your wagon to a star. Sorry, I blew that. And then I will tack on, like the Avoya Travel Network. It can make all the difference.
We're certainly more than happy to provide those resources. Vicki, fantastic conversation. We thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate you being our featured guest on our Meet the Team feature here on Deck with Avoya.
Thanks again, Chris. I enjoyed it.
My pleasure. Vicki Dyer, everybody. Thank you so much again, Vicki, for joining us. And next week, joining us for our Meet the Team segment will be Chris Carrasco, the Vice President of Contact Center Operations at Avoya Travel. Chris is a fascinating guy, a fantastic family guy, apparently quite the soccer player. And I know personally he loves the Pittsburgh Steelers, so he can't be all that bad. And we can't wait to have you meet Chris Carrasco next week, another great member of the Avoya Travel team. Okay, let's talk promotions, because we've got several. We've got promotions geared if you're with us today and you're thinking about joining the Avoya Travel Network, whether you're a top-end elite travel professional or your experience is a little bit recent and you're still trying to build at that level. And of course, for those that are already members of the Avoya Travel Network that might be joining us on our call today, we certainly appreciate your participation, and we want to remind you that we've got promotions geared towards you as well, that if you refer new members of the Avoya Travel Network, that there's a little something in that for you as well, and you can always reach out to me. So for those of you thinking of joining, again, the promotions are geared two ways. If you're a top-end travel professional, we do have a promotion right now that you can join the network with no affiliation fee. That's right, we're waiving the $4.95 affiliation fee. Again, this is for a seasoned, been in the business quite some time, probably had volume at least 500,000 or greater back in 2019, probably has some future cruise credits, some future travel credits, bookings on the books somewhere that you might be in a position that you'd want to transfer as you join our network. Again, my team is happy to go over with those details with you. And then the second promotion geared towards those trying to get to that level. Maybe their sales are not at that level. We've got a promotion where you join the network at the normal fee. And as long as both partners want to re-up at the end of that initial 6-month period, we're waiving that renewal fee. So a couple of ways to join the network. And of course, you can explore with complete flexibility. There are no long-term contracts or exclusive agreements. Contact us for eligibility this is not going to last forever. So don't delay your success. Now is just a fantastic time to reach out, right? We're starting to see the industry thaw out. I really believe, sales have been pretty good. The number of people in our network that have made just phenomenal sales over the last couple of weeks and since the beginning of the year are phenomenal. The number of around the world cruises that have been sold within our Avoya Travel network is pretty staggering. So if you'd like to find out how those elite resources could benefit you and your agency, please reach out to us today. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. So my contact information is pretty simple. You can reach out to me at my email, which is chris.green@avoyatravel.com. There's the phone number there on the screen if you want to reach out that way. You can always send a message to the avoyanetwork.com. That's our website. Lots of information about the resources that we offer. You can reach out to us through Facebook on the Avoya Network page there. But we would just love to hear from you, and we would love to connect you with one of the members of my team for that deep dive and that thorough conversation. Before we wrap up this week's edition of On Deck with Avoya, I wanted to wrap up with a quote from this week from Carnival Corporation CEO Arnold Donald. Some of you may have seen this quote, and Mr. Donald's not the kind of person that just goes out there throwing out quotes left and right. He's not a soundbite machine. Usually what he says is very well thought out, and there's a lot behind it. And this is what he had to say. He said, "What I will predict is this. I think that certainly by the end of this year, most, if not all, of our fleet, I'm optimistic, will be in action." That's just a really positive statement from somebody in the know. And if you think about that, if that comes true and all of their fleet is back in action by the end of the year, and you start to backdate that 3 months when the final payments would be due, right? The great thing about final payment, we get final payment in, that's when we get paid. So I really believe that we're getting closer, right? Hopefully the light at the end of the tunnel is getting bigger and bigger, and it's not a big train heading right for us. But we really believe at Avoya Travel, and we would love to hear from you, and we would love to see if together we can't put together the beginning blocks of a shared success relationship. Thank you so much again to my special guest, Vicki Dyer, for joining us this week. Thank you to Marissa Smith for doing a fantastic job, as always, behind the scenes. We hope you have a wonderful week and that you join us next week again for On Deck with Avoya. Take care, everyone.